Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Richardson Chamber of Commerce International Concierge Committee Zoom meeting on USMCA. My name is Javier Mason. I will be your moderator today for today's program. I am president and founder of Grupo America, LLC, a company that helps companies expand internationally. I'm based here in Dallas, Texas, and I serve on the tri-chair for our Richardson Chamber of Commerce International Concierge Committee. It is my honor and pleasure to be with you today. Thanks to all of you for attending and participating. Today we have a very exciting topic. USMCA, it's not your grandmother's NAFTA. And to go along with that, we have an excellent panelist that will cover the new USMCA that are international experts in the field of commerce, trade in the US, Mexico, and Canada. Let me introduce you to them. First of all, our first speaker is going to be Alex Tercero Chacon, who is the Mexico Desk Officer for North America for the US Department of Commerce, based in Washington, DC. Good morning, Alex. Welcome.
Good morning.
Our second panelist is Mr. Patrick Kirwan, Director of the Trade Promotion and Coordinating Committee Secretariat, U.S. Department of Commerce, based also in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Patrick.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
The third panelist is Ms. Dina Santos, the Senior Trade Commissioner for the Consulate General of Canada, based in Dallas. Welcome, Dina. Fourth is Ms. Olga Torres, who is the founder and managing director and member at Torres Law PLLC, an international trade and security law firm based here in Dallas and also in Washington, D.C. And fifth, but not last, is Mr. Hal Harvey, who is the COO of Valterra Products, LLC, who is working out of his home office in Utah, and his company is based in Mission Hills, California. Thank you all for being with us. I have to cover some minor items now. And Shannon, would you give us the first slide, please? Shannon, would you give me the ICC slide?
Oh, well, they're on, Javier.
Okay. Well, I thought we had the ICC slide. Forgive me. Let's go on to the tri-chairs. Our tri-chairs for the Richardson Chamber are three persons. The head tri-chair is Ms. Lisa Schramm-Krug, who runs the law office of Lisa Schramm-Krug here in Dallas. Yours truly, Javier Mason with Grupo America. And our tri-chair, and our third tri-chair is Robert Smith from Seville, Dodgen and Company, a CPA firm here in Dallas. Next slide. The sponsor for our event today is, of course, Seville CPA. Thank you, Robert and company for sponsoring our event. I would also want to mention that I had planned to talk about what the International Concierge Committee is. I don't think I have a slide on that, but the International Concierge Committee promotes the Chamber soft landing services offered by committee members and provides an excellent opportunity to stay on top of international trade scene. We meet monthly. Our past speakers have included international consuls generals, International Chamber of Commerce executives, business leaders, government officials, international political and economic experts. So we brought in some very, very important and interesting people. The roundtable discussions promote also from our side networking opportunities for the Concierge Committee here in Dallas and the Richardson Chamber. Before I leave the introductions there, I want to mention that our committee reports up to the International Concierge Committee reports up to a committee headed up by Lawrence Holworth, Director of the Mayor's Office for International Business for Richardson, Texas, and he's also the Vice President for International Business Development, and Ms. Beth Coleman, Director for Economic Development. Thank you both for your support to our Concierge Committee. At this point, I think I would like to turn the meeting over to Lisa for some introductions. Lisa?
Thank you, Javier. As Javier mentioned, part of the International Chamber of Commerce or the Richardson Chamber of Commerce International Concierge Committee's mission is to provide networking for the members and for the attendees of our roundtable events. So at this time, what I would like everybody who is participating in this webinar to do is to please introduce yourself. Please give us your name, your company, and in 15 words or less, what you do.
Good morning, everyone. This is Virginia Arteaga-Hay. I'm representing the Dallas College, formerly Dallas County Community College District. I work for Global Economic Development, and I'm very pleased to be part of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia.
Good morning, I'm Hayo Siemers. I'm with Panoramic Advice, a management consulting firm that helps companies verbalize their vision, formulate a strategy, and execute a plan, making sure you achieve your goal and you can look back to where you started and achieve what you intended to go.
Good morning, my name is Oscar Mari. I'm director of the Argentina-Texas Chamber of Commerce.
Morning, this is Robert Smith from
My name is
Savile Company.
Christina Loon.
Go ahead, Christina.
My name is Christina Loon. I'm the Senior Trade Policy Advisor to the British Consulate in Houston, and I'm working on building support for a free trade agreement.
We're so glad you could join. This is Robert Smith from Savile Company. I'm an international tax CPA and honored to be one of the tri-chairs along with Javier and Lisa of this committee. And we're all very happy to see so many friends as well as new people who joined today. So thank you. And I don't know, Lisa, if you're going to mention, but if you see someone that you'd like to have further discussion with, remember that you can message them individually through the Zoom app and connect with them for further discussion after the event. So please feel free to network with the participants throughout the meeting. Thank you.
Hello, I don't know if you can hear me. This is David Luna with Orion Fans. I'm the Vice President of Global Sales and Marketing. Have exclusive representatives and distributors throughout North America, including obviously Mexico and Canada. So this makes it very important to me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stan Bradshaw. I'm the CEO of US Freedom Capital. We're a EB5 regional center focused investment firm and multifamily property developers. And I'm also the chairman of the Richardson Chamber this year and have been involved in this committee pretty much since the beginning. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Lamb Bentley. I'm a senior associate attorney at Barry Appelman and Leiden, a corporate immigration law firm, and our major hub is here in Richardson.
Hello, I'm Joe Costantino. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. I run a little web company in Dallas. I'm a past chamber, just interested, real interested in the topic.
Welcome.
All right.
Hello, I'm Satish Kumar Gopalaswamy. I am co-founder of a cybersecurity consulting firm, primarily helping small and medium businesses to be on top of cybersecurity.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
And good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Good morning. My name's Elizabeth Purdy-Bergen. I'm a member of the member of the Concierge Committee. I work with Sleeper Sewell Insurance. I specialize in employee benefits. The agency is a full service agency offering all lines of insurance products. We exclusively cater to the SMEs and help them find the best solutions with their strategic plans.
All right, anybody else?
Hi, hello, this is Carrie Warren. I'm a colleague of Alex Tercero's. I work in the Office of North America at the International Trade Administration, and I'm actually a commercial officer that's heading to Mexico City to support the U.S. Embassy there for commercial affairs.
Oh, thank you.
Good morning,
for having
everyone.
me.
I'm a U.S. immigration attorney at Barry Appleman and Leiden. I represent foreign nationals across the U.S. for a Fortune 500 company.
All right. Anyone else who hasn't introduced themselves yet? We do have a couple of people who have messaged in the chat. Bethany Winters, she doesn't have audio today. She works for Bodyguard Truck Accessories out of Paris, Texas, and is the freight manager. Welcome, Bethany. We also have Madiu Diallo. She is the managing director of Basira Consulting in Plano, specializing in international business exports of corn, soybean, international accounting. Additionally, we have Kadir Bayandir, who is an international intern at Howarth International. And my name is Lisa Schwamkrug. I am one of the tri-chairs of the International Concierge Committee. I am an immigration attorney with offices in Richardson, Texas. And Javier, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Javier Mason, President and Managing Director of Grupo America LLC. Our company helps companies expand internationally, going this way and that way. We're based in Dallas, and we've been in business 17 years. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for introducing yourselves today. And at this time, I think we're going to go ahead and start with our speakers. And I would like each speaker to briefly introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do before you start your presentation. And so we are going to start with Alex Tercero Chacon. Welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, Alex, we can hear you fine.
Perfect. Yes, as Javier mentioned earlier, my name is Alex Tercero Chacon, and I'm a Mexico desk officer here at the Department of Commerce. And part of my duties, I work on market access issues with Mexico and work on policy-related issues as well.
Alex, you can go ahead and start with your presentation.
Of course. Could someone please confirm if the slide is up, the first slide?
Yes.
Perfect. All right.
That would be about tariffs, so that'll be the last slide.
Oh, wait.
That'd be this last slide, yeah.
It should say U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Just let me know when. Thank you so much.
Yes, we have the slide up, US-Mexico-Canada Agreement.
Excellent, thank you, perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here today to talk about the USMCA with my colleague, Patrick Kerwin, who will focus on SMEs later in the presentation. I would also like to thank the Richardson Chamber of Commerce for the invitation, and that has been a pleasure working with Shannon Skripka and Javier Mason on this portion of today's call. So today I'm going to cover and discuss 3 aspects of the USMCA: what's important to know about the agreement, the major differences between the NAFTA and USMCA in key chapters, and finally, I'd like to highlight a few of the new chapters. And can folks please just put your phones on mute? I'm hearing some noises in the background. Next slide, please. So here's a roadmap of today's presentation. First, we'll discuss tariffs, certification of origin, rules of origin, and Pat will discuss de minimis. Next, we'll discuss major differences in key chapters with a focus on IPR, customs administration and trade facilitation, advanced rulings, agriculture, financial services, and textiles and apparel. And lastly, new key chapters, which focus on good regulatory practices, digital trade, environment, labor, and SMEs. Next slide, please. So understanding USMCA. So all products that have 0 tariffs under NAFTA will remain at 0 under USMCA. Canada provided new and expanded.
Slides are not moving. Is that, Shannon, is there something we can do to fix that? Hello, Shannon?
Yes, is this the slide? I didn't hear him ask me to change the slide.
Yeah,
sorry, we should
be on the 3rd slide now, right?
Oh, I didn't.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and can we go to like a full view? Can we go to like presentation mode instead of edit mode?
What are you seeing, Joe? I don't know what you're seeing.
I'm seeing it in edit mode. If you go to like slideshow and present it, so it takes up the whole screen, because I see a bunch of gray space. I see file, home, insert, design, transition.
Okay, because that's not showing up on my screen. Hold on. Apologies for that.
No problem. I know it's complicated.
All right, I'm going to go back to it. Let's see. All right. Is that better?
Don't have anything.
Oh, goodness. Okay, hold on.
I don't think it's shared yet.
You have to share screen and then you press F5.
All right, I'm going to try this again. Is that better?
There we go.
Okay, apologies. I did not see that on my end.
No worries, I can go ahead and just go over slide 2 again for everyone's convenience. So here on slide 2, you should see an overview or the roadmap of today's presentation. First, I will discuss understanding USMCA with a focus on tariffs, certification of origin, rules of origin, and de minimis. Next, we'll discuss major differences in key chapters with a focus on IPR, customs administration and trade facilitation, advanced rulings, agriculture, financial services, and textiles and apparel. And lastly, we'll highlight some new key chapters, such as good regulatory practices, digital trade, environment, labor, and with Pat covering SMEs. Next slide, slide number 3, please. Can someone confirm if slide 3 is up?
Yes, it's up.
It's up.
Perfect. So all products that have 0 tariffs under NAFTA will remain at 0 under USMCA. Canada provided new and expanded access for U.S. exports of milk, cheese, cream, skim milk powder, condensed milk, yogurt, and several other dairy categories, as well as eliminating tariffs on whey and margarine. A very useful tool we have on our website is this FTA tariff tool, which you can find on trade.gov. Next slide, please.
It's there.
So this is where a lot of, on certification of origin, this is where a lot of folks have questions on. Just to highlight, the USMCA no longer requires the NAFTA certificate of origin. Since July 1st, CBP is no longer accepting the NAFTA certificate of origin, otherwise known as Form 434. However, over the weekend, actually, CBP published a suggested template for folks to use for USMCA. And you can find the link on this PowerPoint presentation here. And lastly, USMCA blanket certification of origin will be valid for 12 months. Next slide, please. Slide number 5.
It's there.
So the USMCA certification requires that a set of 9 data elements be submitted to prove origin. These elements may be provided on an invoice or any other document and can be presented in any format, similar to other more modern trade agreements that were implemented subsequent to NAFTA. The USMCA allows producers, exporters, or importers to supply the information needed to certify the product's origin. However, the importer is responsible for exercising reasonable care concerning the accuracy of all documentation submitted to CBP. Under the USMCA, the document that certifies origin may be completed electronically with an electronic or digital signature. And just to go over this slide, number 1, these are the 9 elements that are required. Number 1, the importer, exporter, or producer. Number 2, the name and address of certifier. Number 3, the name and address of exporter. Number 4, the name and address of producer. Number 5, the name and address of importer. Number 6, description and HS or harmonized system tariff classification of the good. Number 7, the specific origin of criteria. Number 8, the blanket period. And number 9, the authorized signature and date. And I just want to reiterate, there's no set form or template. You can have this in any format as you wish, but CBP did upload a suggested or optional template for folks to use moving forward. Next slide, please. Slide number 6. So for rules of origin, the USMCA also includes stronger rules of origin for industrial products that will increase regional content and help preserve North American manufacturing, including new rules for autos and auto parts, chemicals, and steel-intensive products. There are also minor changes to additional products such as glass and fiber optics. And these rules will help ensure that producers who use sufficient amounts of North American parts or materials receive preferential tariff treatments. Just to briefly cover these for auto rules of origin, the USMCA increases regional value content for automobiles from 62.5% to 75%. It also includes a first-of-its-kind labor value content rule that requires a certain percentage of each vehicle, 40% for passenger vehicles and 45% for light trucks, to be manufactured in a North American factory in which workers make average wages of at least $16 per hour. For chemicals, USMCA allows chemical processes to confer origin, and the 8 chemical processes are chemical reaction, purification, mixtures and blends, changes in particle size, standards material, isomer separation, separation prohibition, and biotechnological processes. For steel, for selected steel and iron products in HS Chapter 73, USMCA also requires that 70% of steel by weight come from North America. Next slide, please. Slide number 7.
It's there.
Nice. So here, I'm going to highlight briefly some major differences in key chapters. Since this group is very diverse, I think there'll be parts that are of interest to many of you. For the IPR chapter, the USMCA establishes the most comprehensive rules on intellectual property to date. The chapter requires a minimum copyright term of life of the author plus 70 years. It also requires ex officio authority for law enforcement officials to stop suspected counterfeit or pirated goods at every phase of entering, exiting, and transiting through the territory of any party or country. It has the strongest standards of protection for trade secrets of any prior free trade agreement. For Customs and Trade Facilitation chapter, parties are required to publish information like import, export, and transit requirements, as well as fees, charges, and penalties, all on the internet. Customs administrations have new obligations to ensure fairness and integrity in customs work. For example, customs procedures must be consistent through all ports of entry. And under the customs chapter, express shipments valued below $2,500 US will benefit from reduced paperwork as well. For agriculture, the USMCA maintains NAFTA's existing zero tariff treatment and expands U.S. access to Canada's dairy market, as mentioned, and includes a number of other important upgrades in areas like agriculture, biotechnology, and sanitary and phytosanitary measures. For financial services chapter, the USMCA includes a prohibition on local data storage requirements when a financial regulator has access to the data that it needs to fulfill its regulatory and supervisory mandate, which is a first of its kind in any free U.S. trade agreement. Next, under the textiles and apparel chapter, there are revised rules which incentivize the use of regional inputs. And the chapter also has strong new textile-specific enforcement procedures to help prevention, circumvention, and fraud.
I can't answer that question. I said may not.
Sorry, can someone mute their call, please? For advanced rulings, for those of you who may not know, an advanced ruling is a written document received from the customs authority from a USMCA country. It provides binding information on specific USMCA questions companies or stakeholders may have about future imports of goods into Canada, Mexico, or the United States. The USMCA requires that advanced rulings be available on a free, publicly accessible website, which I know the US and Canada have, and it requires rulings to be issued as expeditiously as possible and in no case later than 120 days after obtaining all necessary information.
Oh, yeah.
Next slide, please.
So that's better than this, so it's gonna go away. Because you just said it.
Can folks, sorry, I apologize for this. I know I just want to make sure folks can hear me clearly. Can folks please mute their phones?
Can everyone please mute not speaking? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Apologies. Now, next slide, slide number 8. Good. Here I'm going to highlight some new key chapters, and Pat is going to cover the SME chapter. So for good regulatory practices, this chapter is the first of its kind for a U.S. trade agreement. It will help to reduce and prevent non-tariff barriers through increased transparency, evidence-based decision-making, and whole-of-government internal coordination. Good regulatory practice can support the development of compatible regulatory approaches among all the countries and reduce or eliminate unnecessary, burdensome, duplicative, or divergent regulatory requirements. For digital trade, I know this is of interest to your group. It prohibits the application of customs duties and other discriminatory measures to digital products distributed electronically, such as videos, music, or software and games. It ensures that data can be transferred across borders and facilitates digital transactions by permitting the use of electronic authentication and signatures. And it cracks down on data localization measures as well. For the environment, real quickly, it brings the environment obligations into the core of the agreement and makes them fully enforceable. There's obligations to combat trafficking in wildlife, timber, and fish. It strengthens law enforcement networks to stem the trafficking of these issues. It also addresses pressing environmental issues such as air quality and marine litter. In addition, USTR has given funding for outreach events for commerce as well for U.S. importers and exporters on the environment chapter's regulations. So I'm always open to hear ideas of what areas in the environment chapter folks need more better understanding on, and I can work with you on that. For labor, it brings the labor obligations into the core of the agreement and makes them fully enforceable as well. It requires the parties to adopt and maintain in law and practice labor rights as recognized by the ILO, or the International Labor Organization. It obligates parties to address violence against workers for excising labor rights. It prohibits the importation of goods made by forced labor. And there's an there's an annex on worker representation in collective bargaining in Mexico, under which Mexico commits to specific legislative actions to provide for the effective recognition of the right to collective bargaining. And the Interagency Labor Committee, which I'm a part of for monitoring and enforcement, also established a web-based hotline that allows the receipt of confidential information from interested parties to submit information. And you can find that information on Labor's website. And with that, I'll transition to Pat Kerwin, who will focus on small and medium-sized enterprises. So next slide, please, slide number 9.
It's up.
Great, thank you, Alex. This is Pat Kerwin. My title is Director of the Trade Promotion Coordinating Committee, which is a group. It's housed in the Department of Commerce, but we have a broader mandate to help work with the other federal agencies involved in international trade, and there's about 20 of them, and making sure that we're all kind of the strategy is common across and priorities are common across those agencies, and focused on a set of finite set of priorities, of which USMCA, both the negotiation and implementation, would be obviously a major priority for the administration. Within that, myself and my colleague, Tricia Van Orden, were actually involved in the negotiations on the small business chapter with USTR. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the SME chapter and some of the other benefits. So some of the benefits in the USMCA are not just the small business chapter, but really throughout the document itself, throughout the trade agreement. And so I'll try to highlight some of those. Some of them Alex has already touched on, and I'll highlight a couple of those too. So the SME chapter is new to this trade agreement. It's the first time we've put that in a final free trade agreement, and I noticed that we've got someone from the British Consulate. We're doing we're having discussions with the UK to do a similar thing for the US-UK free trade agreement. But anyway, on the SME chapter, a lot of the focus of the SME chapter are to try to address some of the issues that we hear from small businesses on the information side. So making sure that all the countries, the signatories to the trade agreement, are providing information to SMEs, to small businesses, on how they can take advantage of the agreement. So we call for, within the chapter, we call for websites to be established that provide a lot of the basic information, including, tariffs, including the documentation you need to have from all three of the parties, and make it very much easier. In addition, an interesting feature on this is we're launching an SME dialogue. This is where the three countries are going to be getting together a couple of times a year and talk about sort of what issues that small businesses in particular are bringing up to us and how we can address those. Coupled with this dialogue is we'll do an event the day before we actually have the government-to-government meetings with small businesses from all three of the countries, and to hear from them in person on issues that they're having. Obviously, because of the health situation, we won't do that until the spring sometime, as right now when it's scheduled. But we are already engaged in scheduling meetings with the Mexicans and Canadians in the coming months or so on SME issues in general that we're hearing about. So anyway, so that's a great vehicle for U.S. companies to sort of let us know, what some of the pain points are in the actual implementation of the agreement, and we can see with the Mexicans and Canadian governments, and they'll obviously inform us of issues that their SMEs are having on how we can help alleviate some of the implementation issues. As Alex stated, the patents and trademark copyrights have vastly improved for U.S. Small businesses in this area, much closer to the standards that we have in the U.S., which really helps our innovative small businesses, things like that. The digital chapter is also, we think, is very critical in that it helps set up so that you don't have to have things like servers have to be in the market in Canada or Mexico. It doesn't really matter where your servers, where that data is held. It can be transferred across the border. And that was something we heard a lot from small businesses, not wanting to have the expense of having a server in all three markets to be able to service those markets on that side. If you can turn to the next slide.
It's there.
Okay, great, thank you. And the next piece is the de minimis is a big thing for, we heard a lot from small businesses, and Canada slightly raised their de minimis from $20 to $40 It may not seem like a lot, but we were hearing a lot from you know, a lot of smaller micro businesses about, you know, who are doing single shipments, but that's helpful. And in addition, the duty-free express shipments have gone up to 150. So there'll still be taxes on those, but the duty will not apply in that case. And with Mexico, again, a similar type of a slight increase, especially in the express shipment side, which is what we see a lot of small businesses do. And with that, I'll turn it back to Alex to talk a little bit about those resources that I was mentioning.
Thanks, Pat. Next slide, please. Slide number 11.
It's there.
Thank you. So here we have really incredible resources from the different agencies here in the U.S. government. First, we have our website at the International Trade Administration, where we have pretty much the information that both Pat and I shared on this website for your interests. Next, CBP, Customs and Border Protection Agency, also has a USMCA center where they have resources like FAQs. They have the suggested or optional template, as I mentioned, for USMCA. And they also have an email address where folks can, you know, ask any questions, and they have a team that's, you know, very big team there working on answering those questions as well. And we also have USTR has their USMCA website as well. And next slide. And here's my contact information. If you have any questions that, you know, if we can't answer today, I can definitely reach out to our industry specialists and experts to help with this as well, all right? So thank you all.
Javier, are you muted, or Lisa?
I'm waiting on Lisa. She was going to introduce the next speaker, or I can go ahead.
Lisa, you're muted. We can't hear you.
And I cannot unmute her.
No.
No, I'm okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead, Javier. Introduce our next speaker.
No. I think Ms. Dina Santos, the Senior Trade Commissioner of General Consulate of Canada. You're on, Dina. Welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. And really a big thank you to the Chamber for organizing this event. My name is Dina Santos. I'm the head of our commercial section here at the Canadian Consulate in Dallas, Texas. We're one of very few countries represented in this region. So we're very proud. We've been here for over 50 years, and I lead a team of 10 business development officers. I've been posted in the US for 15 years of my 18-year career, New York, Boston, San Francisco, and now Dallas. And I'm very, very excited to talk to you today about NAFTA, USMCA, and how this agreement has benefited our respective countries, regions, and brought and continuing to bring prosperity to all of us. So I'm grateful if you could start my slide deck.
Yes, hold on. You're not popping up. There. Okay, this is called Dina. Apologies, but they're not appearing when I try to get them on.
Shannon, can you help?
Yeah,
there you go.
There, here we go.
There you go.
Apologies for the technical difficulties.
Oh, here. No worries.
Okay.
No worries. Well, let me continue as you open my presentation.
You should be seeing it. Are you not seeing it?
We're still seeing your screen with the list of files.
Oh my
It might be on another screen, Shannon.
Okay, sorry, because I only have one. Okay, let's try this. Okay, you're still seeing. Bear with me. All right. I'm going to try this one more time. Is it showing now? No?
No.
All right,
No.
stopping the share. How's that?
Oh,
Yay!
there we go.
Success.
Okay. Oh my goodness, apologies.
No worries. Let's head to the next slide.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So as all of you know, the US, Mexico-Canada Free Trade Zone is the biggest economic region in the world, encompassing $32 trillion American regional market with more than 480 million consumers. Due to its long trading relationship, North America is a hub for international trade, and we've really worked hard over the years to develop, and integrate our economies. Since 1994, we've grown our trade to more than $23 trillion a day. And in essence, with only 6.5% of the world's population, Canada, US, and Mexico together generate 27% of the world's GDP. So I raised this just to mention and exemplify the importance of our relationship at our integrated economies. We are roughly trading $144 million an hour. The great state of Texas exports $33 billion to Canada. So you're exporting more to us than we're importing to you. And there's about 700 Canadian companies established here. And the USMCA supports about 70,000 jobs here in the state. We also like to travel. So we were talking about the weather a little bit earlier. There's about 616 Canadian travelers. We call them the snowbirds that come down in the winter to benefit from the great weather and economy and contribute here as well. Next slide, please. So I decided to put this image because very often when we're illustrating how our economies are integrated, we usually focus and put together showcase parts, automotive parts as an example, just to showcase how integrated we are. But it really, in all aspects of the products and services that we offer, you could see that, we build things together. On average, Canadian goods sold to the US contain 25% of American content and vice versa. We have very strong content of goods in Canada. We rely heavily on supply chain integration within our countries. You would be surprised that in essence, we import more, as an example, on the agri-food side, we import about $51 billion in agri-food products, mostly from the US in Canada, more than we bring in from China, Japan, and the United Kingdom combined. We're a top trader to both states. We're number 2 here in Texas. Mexico beats us by 1, and Canada is Mexico's 6th largest merchandise trading partner. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I actually live in North Dallas. I'm very close to Richardson, and every time I am on the highway, I'm just so excited about all the company logos that I see, and I can't help but compare the strong workforce and sectors that I see represented in Richardson to strengths in Canada. So there's great opportunities there. And our common trade supports a number of jobs in Richardson in particular. 18,000 jobs are supported by our trade on a daily basis. Next slide, please. So these are the examples of top Richardson employers that have operations in Canada. So again, I'm on the highway and this is what I see. Very strong multinationals represented from Richardson to Canada. We also have a lot of small, medium-sized companies in Richardson selling into Canada. there's over 200, and the reason, I'll just go, there's many reasons for that. We have over 200 languages spoken in Canada. And honestly, in Richardson, we've got a lot of diverse population as well. We have a great access to talent. We have one of the most diverse talent pools in the G7 countries. We also have developed a global skills strategy that supports mobility provisions that are included presently in the USMCA. So we're actually trying to recruit over 1 million new skilled labor in the next 3 years to Canada. We have a very competitive tax environment, strong R&D incentives, accelerated amortization incentives, very low federal, corporate, and provincial tax. So we're about 15% on the corporate tax front, 26% combined with the provinces, and we have a very good exchange rate. Next slide, please. So these are the type of companies, as I referenced earlier, we have a lot of Canadian companies that are working in the DFW area. A number of them are based out in Richardson. If you look at Expo as an example, you will see their North American headquarters here. Bombardier, just for fun, some of you might have tested their recreational products, but they've basically designed the products, the four-wheelers in Canada and Quebec. They've decided to establish their regional hub here in Texas because they sell extensively to Texas, to California, and Florida. And then their manufacturing plant is over the border in Mexico. So this is just an example of how companies are taking advantage of USMCA and maximizing their operations from a footprint perspective. Next slide, please. The previous colleagues from the U.S. Department of Commerce really drilled down into the updates and benefits of the new chapters of USMCA. I've decided to include this slide just to talk a little bit about corporate strategy. So we've actually signed several other free trade agreements. We've got 14 at the present time, giving access to 49 countries and 1.5 billion customers. So basically, if you sell and have operations through Canada, you can sell to the world under a preferential basis. Next slide, please. And this is kind of like, again, just from a corporate strategy perspective, if you're looking at North America as a international hub, these are the type of markets that you can access. So we just wrapped up a free trade negotiation agreement with the European Union. So you have access to 28 EU countries if you transition and sell through Canada. And vice versa on the West Coast, we concluded a new CPTPP agreement, which also gives you access to South American and Asian countries. Next slide, please. So very quickly, what I wanted to mention in this slide related to just a couple of points to add to the previous presenter's presentation. So as you know, the two main agencies for you when you're going to be shipping product to Canada are the Canadian Border Services Agency and also our Canada Revenue Agency, where you will be requesting importer business registration number and also tax registration number. So we do have federal and provincial consumer taxes called GST and HST, depending on the provinces. So you will probably be asked to, if you're going to be shipping product, to incorporate and get some tax numbers. The previous presenters went through the different opportunities in shipping and the changes to the rules of origin and how to qualify for tariffs. A couple of points I want to just complement to their presentation relates to services. So if you're a service company, which there's a lot in Richardson actually, you don't need to establish a presence in order to provide services in Canada. And then on the temporary entry front, As I mentioned, we have a chapter on labor mobility, where if you want to come up Canada, you can send workers. They could potentially qualify based on their what they do. They could qualify for 1-year temporary visas, and then after that they could qualify under other immigration programs, but we're quite friendly and opening on that front. And then government procurement, that's a big change in the USMCA new negotiations. So in essence, we are offering opening up our markets. So there's no renewed government procurement chapter in the USMCA, but under WTO rules, American businesses can sell to Canadian federal and provincial governments. Next slide, please. Again, if you're established in Canada, we're very happy to open up our stimulus plans view at the present time. And also we're looking for PPE equipment. So there's a lot of supply chain opportunities post-COVID for in Canada. And currently our border is closed to travel only, but we're open to state and essential services. Next slide, please. And these are just key resources. So if you're looking to find additional information, we call it PASMA in Canada, not USMCA. So you can look at our Global Affairs Canada website. The Canada Border Services Agency website is also pretty good. And there's another website that I'd like to highlight called tarifffinder.ca, where basically you type in your HS code and you could see what type of tariffs would apply to the goods that you're importing. And you could see also what, if you import or export that same product to other countries, what the tariff code, the tariffs would be. Thank you. That concludes my presentation. And here's my contact.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We learned a lot about Canada. Thank you very much. We've got, it's 10:53. We're going to be running till 11:15. We've got 2 more presentations. If we can run quickly through those 2 presentations, I would appreciate it. If you can take between 6 to 8 minutes, Olga, on yours, and Hal, if you could take about the same time, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Olgita, would you please start your presentation? Thank you.
Is this the right group of slides? Yes, okay.
No, that'd be I believe the last one, right?
That's the last one. Shannon, can you fix that?
That's the last one?
Yeah.
Right there?
Mine should say Torres law in the first slide.
I believe, yeah, Olga's next, yep.
Okay.
I'm sure her slides are much more dynamic than mine, so we want hers.
Yeah, that's the one. Yay, perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. I know I have a few minutes to cover a highly complex topic, so I will do my best. My name is Olga Torres. I'm the managing member of Torres Law. We are headquartered here in Dallas, Texas. I also have an office in DC. I used to work in DC for a while. And currently we're working from home, as you can see, due to the pandemic. So I'm going to be covering the USMCA rapid response mechanism. You know, as a way of a disclaimer, I am a trade lawyer. I'm not a labor lawyer, but you will see that this topic is really sort of marrying trade and labor law. So we're working a lot with a lot of our labor lawyers in Mexico, labor lawyers here in the US, trying to figure out how that's going to affect our clients, which are typically large importers here into the United States. Next slide, please. So I will give you a very high level. If you feel that this topic impacts you or your business partners, we do have, my law firm is co-hosting another webinar that it's like an hour-long webinar. We're going to talk about this topic in a lot of in-depth. So if that's something that would benefit you, I have my contact information at the very end of the slides. But we'll talk about a high-level overview, the impact, and what you can do to prepare. Next slide, please. So basically, this is a very new mechanism. It's the first time that we see something like this in an FTA. You know, people are wondering whether we're going to see this more and more in other FTAs. But it basically resulted, it was a last-minute deal between the Democrat House of Representatives and the Trump administration. And so what we're seeing here is a novel mechanism in the sense that before the rapid response mechanism, most of the labor disputes will be country to country. So, you know, Mexico and the US will get involved. This mechanism allows private entities, so let's say US unions or, you know, yourself or employees, they would be able to file a petition claiming denial of rights. And so we'll talk about what that means. But this will be a faster review than your typical country-to-country disputes that we've seen before. And it will be reviewed by an independent panel if there's no agreement between the countries. So the denial of rights right now means free association and collective bargaining. So we're mainly looking at Mexico. And Mexico agreed to implement a lot of labor reforms, and they have done that. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops in a private practice where now people can say a specific facility within Mexico rather than Mexico as a whole or industry, an entire industry as a whole has an issue. So here somebody would say such and such ABC company in Mexico is violating these labor rights, and they can file the petition, right? So it's very unique because of that. It is limited to certain covered facilities. In my next slide, I give you what these priority sectors are. And even that list of priority sectors could be later be expanded. But if you see your industry or your type of business listed there, you want to be paying more attention to it. It's supposed to be mainly focused on Mexico. There's a way that a Mexican company or a Mexican individual could also file a petition theoretically against the United States, but it's going to be more limited because the US facility would have to be covered by a National Labor Relations Board enforced order. So it would be a lot more limited than on the Mexican side. And it's not supposed to work between the US and Canada, and vice versa. It's mainly between Canada and Mexico and the US and Mexico. Next slide, please. Oh, and I think I missed what a cover facility is. So basically I talked about the priority sectors. So it would have to be a facility in a priority sector, which is the sectors that you see here on the screen, which produces goods or supplies services traded between the parties or competes with goods or services of another party. And these are the priority sectors, like I mentioned before. It doesn't necessarily mean that these are gonna be the only ones. The list could be expanded later on. I think there was a lot of commentary initially that they left agriculture out, but it's not listed there. But if you are in the aerospace industry, autos, obviously, cosmetic products, any of this, you want to be making sure that you're preparing to at least understand what it could imply to your business. Next slide, please. So what happens if there's a petition filed? Let's say you have a business partner in Mexico and you source a lot of your products from Mexico, and somebody files a petition against them and they're successful. What happens is right after they file the petition, the entries will be suspended from liquidation. So we're not going to liquidate, customs in the US wouldn't liquidate the entries. And depending on the findings of either once they do the review or if it goes to the stage where they do an on-site verification, you could lose preferential tariff treatment. So it's very important, you know, in my day-to-day, typically what we do, you know, we assist companies with country of origin verifications. When customs comes knocking on your door and says, show me your certificates of origin, show me your supporting analysis showing that the rules apply to you. But you can have those same types of issues where you lose preferential tariff treatment if you have a labor, if you're not successful defending a labor petition. So customs penalties is also potentially on the table. We still don't have the implementing regulations, and the language in the implementing act, it's a little vague. So Potentially, we could see some kind of monetary penalties. And depending on the severity and how many times you've had successful petitions filed against you, there could also be denial of entry of the product. So meaning, you've done it 3 or 4 or more times, the US at some point could say, we're not gonna allow your products to come in from Mexico. Something very important to mention, violations are tracked by corporate ownership. So that means that if there's a corporate parent and they have several facilities and each of these facilities receive petitions, then they could receive, they would count them against the parent. So they're cumulative. Next slide, please. Sources of allegations, I mentioned that it could be really anybody. NGOs, competitors, employees of companies. We get a lot of questions. You think people are going to be employees or personnel in Mexico are going to work with labor unions in the US. It's unclear, but it could happen. So it can come from really anybody. The petition against the cover facility will be filed with the International Labor Affairs Bureau, and is basically co-chaired with the Office of the US Trade Rep as well. I do have in the next slide, there's a hotline where you can file confidential information if you have it. And they also just issued, actually, they issued a federal register with a proposed rule talking about the procedures of how to file these petitions and what should be included in it. The public comments deadline was August 15th, so this past Friday, I believe. The last time I checked, it was interesting because I hadn't seen any comments posted, which I find it hard to believe. So I need to double check that again. But so there could be some changes coming to the procedures that were posted. And I think I have one of the next slides, which I probably won't have time to cover, but it sort of generally outlines if you want to file a petition, where to go, what to include. So once it is filed, basically there's an entire process. The petition goes in, the party has a chance to review, right? So they would look at whether there's credible evidence of denial of rights. And at that point, Mexico could say, no, there's no credible evidence. If the US agrees, it's that's the end of it. If there's disagreement, it could go to the next stage. The US will have 30 days to decide whether there's sufficient credible evidence of a denial of rights. And at some point, if there continues to be disagreement, if there's, for example, if they don't agree on a remediation plan, or if Mexico just says there's no denial, then at that point, the US would have a certain number of days to request a rapid response panel, which will be a panel of 3 people that are independently appointed. And they would be able to conduct a review. And there's also, they also mentioned that there could be an on-site verification. We still don't have a lot of the details of how, what that would entail per se. So we're still kind of monitoring that. But so that could be the process.
Excuse me, do you have a couple more slides, or are you about there?
Yeah, no, I have one more, I think, that I'm going to cover. So the next slide.
Yeah, we need to finish up.
Yeah. So the next slide, please. So that's just the hotline. So if you wanted to see it, and if you have something that you want to file, that's where you can go to file the confidential information, and I provide the link. Next slide. In terms of how to prepare if you're a US company and you're doing business in Mexico, just make sure you look at your supply chain. You ask them for certifications of, are they in compliance with the Mexico labor reform? Try to get audit reports. We're doing a lot of webinars with Mexican companies, and there's a lot of noise in Mexico about this very particular issue, more so than in the US. So update your training policy so that you know what to ask for, update your contract. So what happens if they tell you that they do qualify, but they don't? Evaluate suppliers that are smaller. Typically they have less resources. And just stay on top of the Mexican labor laws and some of the amendments that they're supposed to be doing. If necessary, contact counsel, and just stay up to date. And I think there's a lot more in this slide, but it's pretty self-explanatory. And if you have any questions, and again, if you want to join a more in-depth webinar, feel free to contact me or just go to our website and you can sign up for the webinar. I think that's it. I think the next slide is just,
thank you. It's very interesting, the rapid response and allegation presentation. Thank you, Olga.
No problem.
Hal, would you be so kind, sir?
Yes, sir, and I'll speak very quickly, Javier, so that we can get time for Q&A.
Yes.
We've been benefited from some very expert advice on the USMCA technically. So I'm coming more of the day-to-day life of USMCA company. So I'll be speaking more to a company example business case. So first slide, please. Second slide, sorry.
That it?
No, it'd be I have just 3 there, so it'll be the one, just a brief. While she's working that slide, just a brief background. Myself, I'm the CFO and most recently COO of Valterra Products. We're headquartered out of Mission Hills, California, originally founded back in the late 80s. We've been in Mexico since the late 1980. We're in a maquiladora operation. So can you move the slide there, Shannon, perchance?
Pardon me, is that the wrong one there?
No, it's the right slide deck. If you could just move to the slide specific, just slide 2.
Yeah, it's not showing the presentation. Shannon's just showing the original PowerPoint program.
Let's see. All right, I'm going to stop.
I believe you have to stop sharing and then reshare again to click on the slide, because I think it stays with the slide that was originally there before.
Okay. Here we go again. Okay.
There we go. Thank you. So just a brief background then to catch up so that we have an idea of why the USMCA is relevant for us. We have offices in Mexico, Canada, and the US. And so the USMCA was very key for us. I mentioned we have offices in Victoria, British Columbia. Our Mexico operations, we have 2 manufacturing distribution facilities there. They are under a maquiladora operation agreement. We do injection molding, light assembly. We do have worldwide distribution and concentrated in North America because of the type of markets we're in, but we do have shipments all over the world. Next slide, jump in so I can make sure we have some time. The key for us was, mentioned we have these operations that are directly impacted by the USMCA. So the USMCA coming into play was very key for us for continuity of business. There's been a lot of great discussion relative to the importance of free trade agreements. And so I'll emphasize that for us, there's also been discussed the rule of law, which offers us a stable business operating environment, protecting business rights, property, lack of misappropriation by state-owned enterprises. Those have all been key, and so the continuity was the best for us. The other key mentioned was the complexity, and so the USMCA, we would still be considered a small business. We're just under 100 million from the government compliance, not necessarily the new SME under the USMCA, but the key, I think, for any and all businesses is to be able to look for resources as been presented in this discussion today so that we understand, optimize, and then also our compliance. So we have some good resources on that. Interestingly enough, with the advent of the USMCA right when COVID decided to change a few things, we're working to understand the USMCA, so we have various parties in my team going out and researching these types of seminars. Olga, I'd be interested in some of your webinars. So before I close up for Q&A, the main thing that I'm working on, I became the COO Q1 of last year. And so I've been looking at the world environment, so I'm working on a supply chain optimization and best business practices. So I'm asking my team to focus on USMCA partners. We've been disrupted we have a worldwide supply chain, but alternate vendors are the key for us that I'm working on. And so because of lead times and proximity and activities. So one thing I'd be very interested in is Javier, with this group is to get some contacts relative to some trade associations and whatnot, particularly in Mexico. We're in the TJ Baja province, so we're working on that. I think that the main emphasis has been very well done here with USMCA is a stable business environment. For those of us in the day-to-day trenches, having that support is key, much appreciated, and it's only going to become more important. You're going to see, I think, there's a movement to get more onshoring, we'd call it, getting back into Mexico and Canada, and we're doing that. And so I think we're going to see some shifts back and forth in the supply chain activity. So for us,
Hal, I think we can help you in the association part. I have one in the aeronautical area in Mexico, another one in, there's various associations we can talk off.
Yeah, and I saw that. And so I think the activity for us is, we're benefited by extremely grateful to see it renewed, if you would. And then also we're already doing some work on, Olga made a great point relative to the labor. We're seeing that already in some of the activities. So anybody that's moving into this activity needs to be very, very keen and aware of some of the changes that Olga brought up. Labor management. We're good at the free trade. We're a CTPAT certified company. So that's all good for us. But a particular interest for me, and I think anyone wants to be aware of the labor law changes. That's where I think a lot of it's happening. And Olga mentioned that. And then the supply chain, I think it's going to come closer to home. So I've appreciated the opportunity. Just for reference, our bank, the reason I'm asked today is that our bank is out of Texas. We work with Texas Capital Bank, so it has to come in here and just be a business rep for the USMCA. So I know we're a bit short on time, so I will just leave it open, Javier, so that we have some Q&A. So.
Thank you very much, Hal. Very interesting a presentation. Thank you for sharing your experience and your knowledge. I thank the panelists for the presentation, and I turn the meeting over now to Lisa, who's going to coordinate the Q&A in the few minutes that we have. Lisa.
Thank you, Javier. And if anybody has any questions at this time for any of the presenters, please go ahead and ask those questions, or you can submit them on the chat and we'll read them off.
Lisa, would we be able to get some of these decks? Would that be okay? So that we'd have information from the slides. It'd be very key for me, some of the key contact information. Can we get access to the slide decks and whatnot from today's presentation?
I think.
Yes, that's not a problem. I'll send them out to all the attendees afterwards.
That's right. That's not a problem.
Yeah. If nobody has any questions for the speakers, I think we're at about time for our presentation today. So just a few things to wrap up. We do have some. First of all, I would like to thank all of our speakers today. I would like to thank our moderator, Javier Mason with Grupo America. Thank you for moderating the event today. Next month, September 16th, we will be hosting along with the G&A committee, an M&A event, mergers and acquisitions event. That's on September 16th. Also on September 24th, there will be an event for re-energizing the UK, and we will be sending information out on those events ahead of them. Thank you everybody today for attending the event. We appreciate everybody's attendance and time. Thank you again to the tri-chairs and the committee for organizing the event, and for the sponsors. Javier, anything else to add?
No, just thank everybody. Panelists, thank you for great presentations, and attendees, thank you for being with us. We're gonna try and get more events from the international area towards your way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.